Reserve. When entering a reserve bid, you must click on the Reserve tab on the navigation bar. You will then see the calendar on the left side of the screen show numbers on each calendar day. The numbers on each calendar day reflect the number of reserves that crew planning has indicated it will need on each given day. Comparing this number with your reserve status seniority can help you get an idea of how likely you might be to hold a particular day off. Please note that the speaker reserves will have a different number displayed than non-speaker reserves. Their numbers will correspond to the number of speaker reserves needed for each day. Before entering your bid, there are some important concepts to keep in mind when deciding how to structure your bid. Reserves will have a minimum of 12 days off per month. Ensuring that you get as many of your preferred days off requires some strategy. Here are a few tips to help you think about what will affect your particular award of days off. The first thing to look at is the way the JCBA defines how many days off and days on duty must be grouped. Each period of days off must have no fewer than 2 days off and no more than 8 days off. Each period of reserve days on must have no fewer than 3 days on and no more than 6 days on. You'll want to keep these basic ideas in the back of your mind as you decide how to bid your days off. For example, if you hold June 8th off, you will also have at least June 7th or June 9th off by default. Knowing this can help guide you as you create your bid. Next, you'll want to check to see if you have any vacation, training, or other planned absences, as these events may affect your ability to be awarded particular days off. Also, PBS will look back 6 days from the beginning of the month for purposes of 7-day legality. For example, if you have a trip during the last 3 days of the month, you know that PBS will not be able to award you more than 3 days on duty as reserve at the start of the coming month. Now that you understand how these different aspects can affect your award of days off, let's look at how PBS processes and awards a reserve bid. When PBS reaches your seniority, it creates all the legal possible solutions you could be awarded. The system takes into account all planned absences, carryover days, and days on or off from the current month that lead up to the reserve month. PBS allows you to steer the award toward the solutions with preferred days off. Prioritize which days off are most important to you and bid those days off in the first few layers. All days off in a single layer are considered equal, so it is best to start small and with the most important first. During the award process, PBS will continue layer by layer, awarding the days off you can hold as long as the combination makes a legal pattern. At each layer, the system eliminates the solutions that don't meet the criteria of the award that is being built until finally arriving at a legal solution. Let's look at an example. When PBS first starts processing a reserve bid, it will start with all the possible legal solutions of the days off for each flight attendant at their seniority. In this case, Flight Attendant James has 100 legal possible solutions at his seniority. James has 5 events that he'd like to plan for: his brother's wedding on the 4th, his birthday on the 20th, a game on the 11th, a doctor's appointment on the 12th, and a church event on the 10th. Out of these, the wedding is the most important, and he has decided to bid for this day off alone in the first layer. PBS will now search through the original 100 legal possible patterns it created for James and remove any of those that do not include the 4th as a day off. We are now down to 82 possible solutions. Next, PBS will check to see if out of those 82 possible solutions that contains his brother's wedding day off, the 4th, if there are any that also have the game day on the 11th, the doctor's appointment on the 12th, and his birthday on the 20th off. Unfortunately, there are no solutions that include all those days off. However, there are 67 solutions of days off that include the game day and church event day along with his brother's wedding day. Next, PBS will check to see if any of those 67 solutions with the wedding, game, and church event days off also include any days off requested in Layer 3. And in James's case, there are 35 that also include the 30th off. PBS will continue through the layers until it finds a legal solution that includes as many of the days off in a bid as possible. In this case, Flight Attendant James' final award of 12 days off included 9 of the days off that he had bid for. This was an example of a good bidding strategy. James put his most important event in Layer 1, his brother's wedding. However, you'll notice that he didn't get his birthday off. If his birthday was of slightly more importance than the game or doctor's appointment, then he should have bid for that day off alone in Layer 2, in order to increase his chances of getting that day off in addition to the wedding. Hopefully this helps you understand what could happen when bidding too many days off in a single layer by knowing what PBS does in order to process a bid if it can't award you all the days off in that layer. What if James had bid for the doctor's appointment, the wedding, the game, and his birthday all off in the first layer? Well, if there was a legal possible solution for James at his seniority, then he would have held all of them off. In this case, unfortunately, there was no solution that included all those days off. Because all these days off were bid in the layer 1, remember, they are all considered equal, PBS understands that James is okay with getting all 4, 3, 2, or even 1 of these days off awarded, and that he doesn't really care about which days. In this case, the best that PBS can do was find 3 groups of solutions that included at least 2 of those days off. The first group, the red group, included both the doctor's appointment and his brother's wedding. PBS sets these solutions aside to later drop down and compare against the days off in Layer 2. The second group, the yellow group, includes both the doctor's appointment and the game day off. PBS sets these solutions aside for further processing in Layer 2. The third group, the blue group, includes both the game and his birthday off. PBS sets aside these solutions as well for further processing in Layer 2. Now, at Layer 2, PBS has 3 separate groups of solutions that it will check to see how many days off it can honor from the days off bid here. As a result, out of the red group, it can honor 1 day off from Layer 2, the 30th. Out of the yellow group, unfortunately, there was no solution that included any of these days off in the bid in Layer 2, so all solutions from the yellow group are eliminated. Out of the blue group, it can honor 1 day off, the 19th. Both the red group of solutions, including the 12th, 4th, and 30th, as well as the blue group of solutions, including the 11th, 20th, and 19th, will now be checked to see how many of the days off bid in Layer 3 can be included in the final solution. Out of the red group, PBS was able to find a solution that includes 8 of the days that James bid. These days off include his brother's wedding and the doctor's appointment, but not the game, his birthday, nor the church event. Out of the blue group, PBS was able to find a solution that includes 9 of the days that James bid. Because PBS was able to cover more of his days off, this will be his final award. If you notice, the 9 days off awarded include the church event, but not his brother's wedding. If his brother's wedding was most important, he should have bid that off alone in Layer 1 as he did in the first example. Now that you know how PBS will process your bid and all the aspects that can influence your final award, you can plan your strategy of how to bid for 7 layers of days off. Contrary to a line bid, where you most likely want to get as much of an award from your first layer with a reserve bid, the ultimate goal is to get as close to a Layer 7 award as possible, as will include more of your preferred days off. There is a new waiver present for reserves. Waive to allow carryover to be days off. When this waiver is selected, all carryover days will be automatically awarded as days off. The carryover hours will be paid as pay no credit, above guarantee. Keep in mind that these days will be part of the 12 total days off in the award. For example, if James has a 3-day trip on the last day of the current month and it has 2 of the days carry over into the next month, he would be awarded 2 of his 12 days off on the first 2 days and would be paid above guarantee for the carryover credit, which is in the new bid month. If James did not add this waiver, then those days would be considered 2 of his reserve on-duty days and the credit would go towards his guarantee. A new feature has been added to the JCBA PBS. You can now enter a reserve standing bid on the standing bid tab, the same place where you can enter your line holder standing bid. PBS will select the appropriate standing bid according to your final status. Remember that the standing bid will only be used if you do not put any days off in your current monthly bid. There are 3 reserve related properties in the standing bid tab: These properties can be found at the bottom of the list of the properties on the standing bid tab. The first is Reserve Day of Week Off. This property allows you to bid for a weekly day off and will display a drop-down list from which a day of the week may be selected. You may use this property more than once in the same layer. The second is Reserve Work Block Size and will allow you to bid for a work block size of 3 to 6 days on duty in a row. Selecting this property will display two boxes in which you can type your minimum and maximum work block parameters. The third property is the waiver which was mentioned earlier. Reserve CN days are determined during the award process when not enough reserves bid to work on those dates. Whether or not you have a CN day is based on the number of targeted reserves, the number of reserves legal for availability, and the award of reserves senior to you. If you have CN dates at your seniority, PBS will try to find an award that can cover as many of your CN dates as possible. In the event that PBS cannot legally cover all of your CN dates, then it will use 4 steps of the weighted logic to decide which dates to cover first. The first order of priority will be to cover holidays. Holidays will be predetermined and agreed upon between the union and company. There can be up to 4 dates per month designated as a holiday. This logic will help to ensure that when PBS reaches your seniority and the holiday is a CN date for you, the system will ensure that all reserves junior to you will also be placed onto reserve on that holiday. A junior reserve will only be awarded a holiday off if there is no legal line that would place them onto reserve on that date. The next order of priority will be to cover carry-in days, which include the first 3 days of the bid month. The third priority will be weekend days, all Saturdays and Sundays. The final priority is for PBS to try and cover as many additional CN dates as possible.